Over the years, I've gotten many letters and lately emails, pretty much from horn students asking similar questions. How do I handle my stage fright, the jitters before a concert? How do I handle a piece of music that seems too hard for me to play? What is my philosophy of playing and life? And pretty much many of them lately are asking me, in a sense, what I've learned over all these years. I've been playing the horn for, at least earning my living at it, for 49, 50 years, playing it since I was 10 years old. In the beginning, almost all horn players play in bands or little school orchestras where mistakes aren't a big deal and you're having a lot of fun, and somewhere in that process you come to find out whether or not you love the instrument enough to give your life to it. Because in a sense, I'm going to tell you, I'm going to answer all the questions by saying that you almost become like a priest. This instrument becomes everything. It was everything to me. I put myself to sleep at night listening to Dennis Braine's second horn concerto of Mozart. It was on 78 records at the time. But I was also blessed to have good teachers, and at the right time. When I was about 16, maybe 15, I met Alfred Resch, my first real horn teacher. He was severe, strict, and he was insistent upon my forming the right embouchure. I came in sort of with an embouchure that was upside down, but he insisted. So it was standing in front of a mirror and playing long tones, 4-octave long tones, from middle C to high C, middle C to pedal C. Resch was, in those days, if I missed a note, he'd punch me in the ribs. If I played out of tune, he'd pull on my ear. And in a sense, you could say, he was of the old school, the old German. They called it the German penalty method. But it worked for me. I needed the discipline and the restraining influence of Resch. My second teacher was Philip Farkas, who was also, he used a similar method, German penalty system. He repeated, he taught me to repeat things, so I got it, what he called muscle memory. So I really had it in my chops. I would call it something like perfect feel. It's nice if you have perfect pitch, maybe not too perfect, but good pitch, and my chops were becoming horn players' chops. This might sound a little too beginning-ish instead of where we're going, but it's very important, and I'll tell you why. Because both Resch and Farkas taught me that the music, you had to be devoted to the music. I had to listen to records. I had to listen to the music, and I had to play the music with a real perfection. That summer in Aspen, Mr. Farkas, instead of giving me loads of things to learn, in fact he did. The first couple of lessons, I had many, many works to bring prepared, and I didn't play them very well at all. So he said, okay, next time, just bring back this one etude, but I really want it perfect. So this concept of perfection began to set into my mind. The idea of really centering a note, really feeling it in my chops and working on that. And I began to develop what athletes or like baseball players or golfers, they call it swing thoughts. The things you think about before you play the first night. Now the note that you're going to play on the first night of the concert, the one you're worried about, you can't have some complex thinking about this wonderful music making, these great phrases and tremendous things you're going to do and all the technique and ideas. That's there, but you did that in your practice. The swing thoughts I'm talking about are simplicity itself. For me, it was like I brought the mouthpiece up to my lips, I wet my chops a little bit, got the feel of the mouthpiece being near them, but when the moment came to play, I instantly played. It was quick. So in my thought was the fast attack. The fast attack is critical. Even if you get the note right, but you got it by waiting for it, you were wrong. It's better to miss it fast than to get it slow and holding it to your chops. So I learned this idea of the snapshot photo type kind of attack. Mr. Farkas was more vivid about explaining things like that. But I also learned the 3/4 breath. I didn't take such a deep breath that it only added to my nerves. I would take a 3/4 breath, a comfortable breath. Now, you can draw it in at any pace you want, because what you're really going to do is make that snap attack. You're also going to get used to it. Now, there's one other thing to add to that. Why am I telling you these technical things? Because for me, I was able to overcome my nerves by having a systematic way of playing that I could rely upon, and a simple way to approach first attacks, releases, all those things, holding the tone steady and centering it like a target with it. You just throw the dart right in the center. Those are the kind of almost primitive thinking. And to this day, I don't have profound musical ideas in my mind. It reminds me of a student asked Spencer Tracy, the great actor, "How do you do it?" He said, "Well, just remember your lines and don't trip over any furniture." So it's the same thing with horn playing. Just don't get too complicated about how to do it. Remember what I said about the fast attack. Now, if you want to refine that even more, when I became a soloist, I learned how to leave that horn sitting on the table and walk over and pick it up and play it cold. Boom, right from the start, cold. Now you say, "I can't, I've got to have my warm-up, I've got to get my chops just right." But no, you don't. You can teach yourself how to play cold, just right from the start. And believe me when I tell you, that is a tremendous advantage. Think of it in audition situations or solo situations. I always just left my horn in my lap. I didn't primp and preen and worry about a note and test and try to get myself just right. I knew that I was going to be able to do this because I had practiced it. It was fundamental. I don't want to forget to mention my third teacher, James Chambers. When I went to Juilliard, I studied with Jimmy there. And he was the epitome of courage. It's an underestimated feature of horn playing, to be courageous. I'll never forget something I read, Rene Crevel, I think he said, "No daring is fatal." And there's another one, "Be bold and mighty forces will come to your aid." That second one, I have found to be very true in all points of life. Chambers was, in his youth as a young player, incredibly brave. He just used his air and went for everything. He did come up in a different time. As far as I can tell, horn playing seems to be, at least to me, in my life, I felt it came in 10-year increments, you know, and when you hit 40, I was ever aware that my two teachers, Farkas and Chambers, in their mid-40s, they just quit. The pressure, reaching the point where most athletes begin to lose their youth, and it's an easy place to say, well, that's it. But I didn't want to do that, obviously, and most of you who know my recordings know that I wasn't able to make them till I was pretty much already an old man. So the opportunities, I spent a lot of time getting to those opportunities, and it didn't come so very early. But I had another advantage that's very difficult to explain because it sounds massively egoistic to say. I wanted to be the greatest horn player in the world. Now, I didn't know as a kid that that was like a transcendental idea, that, you know, it's a matter of taste. Like many other things, people like Italian food or French food best or something. I didn't realize that. I thought that there was a curve and that I could be at the top and be the greatest, and that carries you in a certain way because you're only competing, at least I felt this way. I felt like I was competing with the great players, both living and dead. I never felt like I was competing with my classmates or anybody that I had was near me, because I was aiming much, much higher. And just having that as a concept, as something that's in you, you know, you aim the arrow higher, it's going to go further. So I never was afraid, because I wasn't really all there. I was in Valhalla somewhere trying to be great. That's another reason why when you're a young player, at some point, if you're going to do this thing, you have to declare yourself. That's a very important moment, declaring yourself to be a champion at the instrument. It's a very important thing. What do you write on your passport? I put musician. To be a musician is a very, very life-consuming thing, especially playing the French horn. We're the high wire act, everybody knows it. French horn player can spoil a concert so easily. A violinist just goes, little miss, you know, you can hardly hear it. French horn player, it's like dropping the dinner tray. So it's a crucial thing to learn how to master the instrument and to master yourself, your own nerves. Now, there's probably a lot of cautionary things I could say at this point. One of them is, don't forget to have a hobby. You can't do this 24 hours a day. I did play off and on all day long, and I still do. But you have to have a hobby. For me, it was chess. Once at boxing, that was kind of a stupid phase. But chess and painting, I paint. It's good to have that to keep you from being completely immersed, overly absorbed, drowning in the thing. And it helps you remember that it is, after all, horn playing, it's music making, it's not life and death. I'd like to conclude by answering one of the emails about my philosophy of life. And it won't take long, because I can tell you this. My early teachers made me a systematic person. And although I was a C student in school on every other thing, I was an A student at the Horn. And when I finally did decide to read the books that my teacher suggested, instead of trying to find the crib book, when I really started to read, I read everything by an author. I read everything Ernest Hemingway wrote, everything F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote, everything Joseph Conrad wrote, as much of Shakespeare as I could withstand. And what I'm trying to say is, I left no stone unturned. It was the same with chess. I was very passionate about understanding the game, and I played many tournaments that kept me from being completely absorbed in my horn playing to the degree that's not healthy. But I made myself just a few points under master, and what I'm getting at is it was very important to me to find out the truth of a thing. And so, philosophically speaking and religiously speaking, I believe the night that was the most conclusive, that was the most, in a way, traumatic for me. I was in New York. It was in the 1980s, late 80s, I think, maybe 87. I was pacing up and down in front of my bookcase. I was trying to find the meaning. I was searching through all these great writers. To me, they all fell a little short. They came close, but they just didn't give me a truth I could understand and know, I've got it. Now, my sister, from the beginning, was a Bible-believing Christian, always praying for me, And her brother, who was playing in an orchestra filled with Jewish and Italian immigrants, and I had those were wonderful influences. I got so much from Arnold Fish at Juilliard, and I learned a lot from Myron Bloom, and these were people that were so smart, and you couldn't fool them, and I wanted to be that kind of person too, but I also was in desperate need of discovering the truth of the matter. So the point of this is, my sister had long since given me a Bible. But that's the one book I wasn't reading. I didn't read it. I was definitely, I considered myself one of the people that were too bright to be involved in the mythology of such a thing. So, and used to fight with my sister regularly and desperately. Well, that night that I couldn't find the truth in my collection of the works of mankind, I had Darwin's book, I had everybody's, H.G. Wells, I read them all, Conan Doyle, but there was something not quite right. So the point is this, I picked up the Bible and I thought, okay, Cerminaro, I'm Italian, I'll just find the book that says Rome, says the letter to the Romans. It's about 10 or 12 pages. And I started reading it that night. And in those pages, I saw the world as I have known it. I saw the people as I have known them. Everything in there. I saw the truth of the matter spoken to me by an honest man and a humble man. And I knew right away, everything cleared for me. and I made some sort of half-hearted prayer. And all I can tell you is that so many things began to open up for me. Most of them recordings and things that you tend to know me by. I could tell you stories of miraculous occurrences in my life, and things that were definitely, I feel, like that when I told you, be daring, be bold, and mighty forces will come to your aid. Well, that is true. And so, for me, prayer became a crucial part of my life and a crucial part of my preparation, I don't mind saying, for concerts. Yes, most of my students, and probably everybody that gets to the big auditions, use Inderall, and they take performance-enhancing drugs, and I'm not against that, because I was in Aspen when the doctor studied it very carefully to see if it was okay, and she said that it was, and for people, students, okay to use small doses. All that's fine. Look, I would have done anything as a young horn player, anything to get ahead. But I didn't understand how to pull all these things together until I opened that Bible. And if right now you think that makes me an idiot, it doesn't really matter, because I know the difference between truth now and a bunch of imitations. There are counterfeits everywhere, and they want to swim right into your life. All those Chautauqua tent Bible thumpers on TV, they got their hand in your pocket. It's the kingdom of my wallet. So I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about you and the Bible. Read it for yourself. And when you really want to study it out, as I did, I wanted to know everything. So my wife and I, we plunged in. She made herself a Greek expert and a Hebrew expert, and I mean, we are. I would say I'm almost becoming masterful at that, and I do believe that I'm in touch with the truth of the matter. So there you have it. That's my answer for so many of you who've wondered, well, how's he do it? What's he really believe? And remember this, even Shakespeare said it, a substitute shines brightly as a king until a king be by. That's from The Merchant of Venice. There's so many shiny ideas, shiny truths that want you to go with them. But they're substitutes. A substitute shines brightly until the king be by. Good luck.